The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Let's get at this again. Outlaw Tour, Golden State Tour, it's the Legacy Classic. Just a reminder that first tee is 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, so there's showdown contests up on DraftKings right now. For that, I suggest everyone go play it. Also, smash the like for the episode and tell me in the comment section who you think is going to win. And rate and review the Pat Mayo Experience 5 stars and leave a nice comment up there because we need as many of those reviews as possible, especially at the current moment. And if you want to get into a draw to win an Outlaw Tour hoodie when you see the show on social media, give it a retweet. Share it on Facebook, whatever it might be. That'll put you in the draw to win an Outlaw Tour hoodie. Also, fantasynational.com, the premier golf stats and tools site on the planet, is currently free for everyone to use. The Masters field has been loaded in there right now. All you need to do, no credit card information or anything like that, just put in your email and you can get access to the site. If you're ever wondering about fantasynational.com, how to use it, just go to fantasynational.com right now, sign up, and you'll have free access until like real golf ends up coming back. Anyway, Rick Gehman is on the line. What's up, man?
Hey, Pat, this is something we got here. Outlaw Tour, Golden State Tour. Love it, man.
Yeah, you are far more versed in this than I think I am. Like, you know 8 people in this tournament?
All right. Yeah. Do we need a disclaimer at the top that we are certainly not experts in this, but I have had a chance to talk to some of these guys. I've done as much research as I think I could have done. So yeah, 8 to 10 guys I have a pretty good feel on. The rest of the field, no idea who they are.
Okay, so we'll find there's one extreme odds value player who's cheap on DraftKings. We'll get to the pricing and we'll get to the odds in a minute. Tell people where they can actually do their research for this stuff, because I'm looking right now, like, this is which one is this called now? This is the Legacy Classic. The Legacy Shootout was 2 weeks ago, and this is the exact same course, right?
Yeah, same exact course as 2 weeks ago. It's the Legacy Golf Resort. It's in Phoenix. That was an Outlaw Tour event. From my understanding, the way it's working now is the Golden State Tour, which is presumably a larger tour than the Outlaw Tour. When they run events in Arizona, they're either co-sanctioned or they've just pooled resources, but they're essentially running as one. So unfortunately for us trying to find a lot of the information, some of it may be on the Outlaw Tours version of this website, and some might be on the Golden State Tours version of this website. So you kind of have to click back and forth between two, and then you're able to kind of compile all of the schedules, all of the results and scores and things like that.
So that's a lot of fun. The last time it was played here, and this is going to be 3 rounds, correct?
That's correct. 3 rounds, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
And last time it started on a Tuesday, but it was only 2 rounds.
That's right. Yep. Two round event just 2 weeks ago, literally.
Yeah. So we're going to get 3 full days of showdown slate. I have not seen any of the full slate stuff happen, but I believe it's top 43 in ties end up making the cut after the first 2 rounds. And the last time it was held here, Galletti won, but Galetti's not in the field this time.
Yeah, I don't know what he's passing this one up for. Maybe he's getting ready for the Scottsdale Open next week. But yeah, not in the field to defend his 2-week-old crown.
The Scottsdale Open has real people in it, though.
Yeah, Joel Damon, Kevin Streelman, Pat Perez is on the board. I don't know if he's going to play. I assume he would, but then you're going to see a ton of Korn Ferry Tour players, maybe other guys that have PGA Tour experience. It's going to be the best field that we've seen in this hiatus for sure.
Okay, so that will be exciting to do. The best field that I think we saw during the hiatus was that random one in, it was either, I think it was Texas, maybe Florida, that had like Scheffler and Hovland, and who else was in it? Will Zalatoris.
Will Zalatoris or whatever finished 3rd, but yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, where were the odds on that? Where was the DraftKings contest on that one? DraftKings, open up your ears.
Yeah, kind of missed out. Yeah, for whatever reason, DraftKings has the fantasy golf and sports betting mecca is Arizona at the moment, and it's this tour right here. I kind of brushed this off for the first couple of weeks, Pat. I was like, I'm not even gonna think about Outlaw Tour or whatever. And then I watched the prize pools grow, and now you're talking like 25 grand to first every single day. I'm like, okay, I've got to be involved in this now.
Yeah, I almost did the exact same thing. And I was hurting for content. I'm not going to lie to you. At least like the NFL draft gave me 2 weeks. And then we could do like some recaps on that. That was fun. But now we're in like the nitty gritty of this. So we have Outlaw Tour Golf. UFC returns next week. So check out Cody and Paul doing their breakdown for UFC 249. And then, the Colonial's not too far away. It's a month away.
We're like 4.5 weeks out. We're already, I think, 7 or 8 weeks into this, something like that. So assuming all of these dates stay, it's light at the end of the tunnel, Pat. Like it's coming. I mean, I know NASCAR, not something that you and I are both particularly interested in, but they're coming back in like 2 weeks. So there's going to be live, real sporting events that we're going to be talking about soon and this week if you consider mini tour golf.
Well, let's get into this field then. The Outlaw Tour for the Legacy Classic. We have last week's winner, a guy you talked to, KK Limhost.
It is pronounced Limbasut, believe it or not.
What?
Yeah, it's he is from Thailand, KK Limbasut, who won last week's GCU championship, which is a major on the Golden State Tour. So 10 grand in his pocket for that win. He's out of Cal. He was on the team with Morikawa for a couple of years. That's him.
Okay, so he's 10-7 in day one showdown. Dylon, is second in the pricing. He's 10-4. Then you got Jeremy Paul, one of the Paul brothers. He's 10-2. Matt Pisciano is an even $10,000. Then we have Mark Anguiano. He's 98. Colton Yates, 98. Eddie Olson, 95. Yannick Paul, the second of the Paul brothers, 92. And David Gazzolo, 91. And Alistair Daughtry is $9,000. Now, these guys range in pricing in terms of the betting odds, kind of up and down the board here. So we have Limbasut. Is that what you said his name was?
That's it, Limbasut. Yep.
Limbasut and Wu are plus 450, so 4.5 to 1. Pisciano is 9 to 1. Guiano is 11. Jeremy Paul is 10. Colton Yates is 16. And Yannick Paul is 14. So when we go back and look at all the previous winners of this, it's mainly one of the favorites that ends up winning almost every week, isn't it?
So generally, yes. The way that I kind of feel about this, and a lot of times in sports, in golf betting, like I won't bet DJ at 6 to 1 or 7 to 1 because the margins between PGA Tour players is razor thin. We talk about this all the time. The difference between a half a stroke scoring average on the PGA Tour is making like millions of dollars or missing out on your tour card and losing your eligibility. In mini tour events, the range of golfers is massive. So if you have like $2,000, Pat, you can play this event. You pay the 11 or $1,200 for your season membership. You pay your $800 to get entry into this event, and you tee it up, which means you get a wide range of golfers from local guys who just want to play it, guys that play mini tours for, their income. And then now you're getting these guys that are coming down from the Korn Ferry Tour, the Mackenzie Tour, PGA Tour, Latin America, who are trying to stay in shape. And they're kind of throwing everything out of whack because they are, in theory, by far the best players in the field. So you're seeing over 2 and 3 rounds, these guys really rise to the top because the margin of skills is much wider here.
Yeah, and we saw that last week because it was a 3-round event, not a 2-round event, that the cream of the crop really did rise over the course of the 3 days. Like in a single round, whether you're playing DraftKings Showdown or even a 2-round event, obviously the variance is just going to be higher because it's a shorter period of time.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing about this tour is, we always kind of joke that the Korn Ferry Tour is a shootout. Like these are shootouts. Okay. So KK Limbasut shoots 21 under par last week, won by 1 shot, going 7 under in the final round, and broke the course record in round 1. Like that is unbelievably low. If you put those two situations together on the PGA Tour, the Korn Ferry Tour, the guy wins by like 6 or 7 shots. Like these are all shootouts. You have to keep your just foot down on the pedal the entire time.
And what we've seen, the only reason I bring that up is because from a betting perspective, it's a bit tougher this week because both of the favorites are plus 450. That's not really enough. But last week, if you would just bet the 5 big favorites, I think that Wu was the favorite and he was like 8 to 1. So you had like 2 8 to 1 guys, a 10 to 1 guy, a 12 to 1 guy, and a 14 to 1 guy. If you would just bet those 5, you could have got like 3 to 1 on your money.
Yeah. KK cashed my ticket. I think I got him at 12. Some worse books had him at 8. But yeah, he was around double digit marks or a little bit better. And yeah, you would have profited. It's pretty short this week with Woo and KK where they're at. But yeah, those guys are going to eat up a huge chunk of the win equity.
So would you lean towards the players that played in this tournament 2 weeks ago, do you think?
I think so. It's kind of weird, right? I mentioned the different types of players, guys that obviously played well. And this course is like 800 yards shorter than even last week. Like this is going to be a short wedge fest. KK told me he loves his wedges. He loves where he's at. He was knocking on the door before his win last week. So, and he played well here 2 weeks ago. He finished third at the Legacy Classic or Legacy Shootout. Legacy Shootouts. This is the Legacy Classic. And so I would definitely lean for guys that are who played well last week. But then some of these guys are just trying to stay in shape. Like that's my one concern with Dylan Wu, Pat, and I think he's right to do this. He was basically telling me, I'm using this just to I don't want to peak now. I want to peak when the Korn Ferry Tour comes back because he's fourth on the money list and was killing it before they went to hiatus, and he's trying to get his tour card. So that doesn't mean he's not going to, stomp on everybody's throat when he has the opportunity to win this thing. I just think he has a little bit different priorities.
Well, I mean, if he's not playing to the best of his abilities right now, his talent just kind of supersedes that. He's played 2 weeks on this tour, and he's come 5th and 6th.
He's so good. And his official world golf ranking is by far the best in the field, I believe. He's 304th. To put that into perspective, I think KK is like 1284 or something like that. And quite frankly, a lot of these guys don't even have official world golf ranking points. So yes, I completely think Dylan Wu is the best player in the field. He knows it. He wins this a big chunk of the time, but I know that his attention is squarely focused on the Korn Ferry Tour's return.
So who were the 3 golfers that you actually spoke with?
So it was KK Limbasut, it was Dylan Wu, and then it was Brent Grant. He fired I think it was an 8 under round last week at the GCU Championship in the final round. He's from all over the place, but he went to college in Hawaii, and he's on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's not playing this week. We're going to see him next time at the at Talking Stick for the Scottsdale Open.
Okay, so when we're filling out our DraftKings rosters, obviously we want to front load all of the best players possible. That's almost like the same strategy as every week. The problem now becomes we don't know who any of these people at the bottom end are. So the biggest odds value on the board right now, if you scroll all the way, Rick, down to $7,000, you have a guy by the name of Carson Roberts. Carson Roberts won on the Outlaw Tour 4 weeks ago, and he's 25-1 in this field to win this week. He hasn't played since he won. But if you just look at the guys around him in pricing, you have like Caleb Ramirez, 225-1, Danny Gorman, 300-1, Michael Dominic, 750-1, Carson Roberts, 25-1. Now, you can play this one of 2 ways. You can say this is a free square and go for it. And I don't think that the majority of people playing this, I mean, I would guess that even in a single day showdown, this would probably be more beneficial if it was week long because you can fade anyone realistically in a single day showdown and get away with it if they just have like a paltry round. But for a guy who seems to be so much more talented than everyone he's around, I think I would just eat the chalk on this, and it gives you access to everyone at the top.
Yeah, almost all of my builds thus far have rolled through Carson Roberts. You're right. He not only won 4 weeks ago, but he lapped the field. He won it by like 6 shots. I think he was 23 under par. We see his name a lot on this tour. He's if you go back and look at last 6, 7, 8 weeks, we would compare that to like a PGA Tour golfer, and we'd be like, wow, he's piling up the top 5s. He's piling up the top 10s. This guy's in great form. The pricing's wrong. The pricing is absolutely wrong on him. I imagine he's going to be pretty popular, but I don't want to play anybody under 7,000. I've kind of steered away from those guys. The only one of the other names that kind of entices me even in the low 7s is 7,400. It's Nick. I say Armand, but I think they pronounce it differently. But Nick Armand, outside of his one round, his second round last week, he went 65. So he went 65, 73, 66. Now, you and I know this, Pat. If you even shoot a 68 in a mini tour event, you're probably losing ground on the field. Shooting a 73 is terrible. But the fact that he went low in each of his other 2 rounds and you're only getting him 1 round at a time here, he offers that really go low ability. It's only $400 more than Roberts is. He's someone that I'm kind of it's not a nearly a perfect pivot because he's more expensive, but I'm allocating some resources there.
So the two guys that I was looking at outside of the very top end, one was a guy that Wiley put me on to last week. He didn't really do all that well. It's Mitchell Carlson, but he was fourth at this event 2 weeks ago at this course, and he comes out at a pretty reasonable price. He's $7,900. And the other one was Tarzan Dan Hudson at $8,100. I was looking at him just because his name is Dan Hudson. I was like, I used to roster a guy in fantasy baseball named Dan Hudson. So the name just kind of jumps out to you. Then you start looking at it, and you're like, oh, like he's not bad. So over the past 3 weeks, or his past 3 events, he played last week. He was 9th and 13th. Did not play this event 2 weeks ago, but showed up last week after 3 weeks off and came top 10 once again. So it's a pretty distinct trend. Like, you can identify who the good players are, who the bad players are, like just by looking at recent form, generally speaking. Like, KK wins, and his lead into that was 3rd, 16th, 2nd, 3rd. Wu comes in 5th, 6th. Jeremy Paul has an 8th, a 16th, a 7th, a 6th, and a 5th. I assume that means he comes 4th this week, if we just play out those projections. Yannick Paul has come inside the top 10 in each of his past 4 starts, same as Colton Yates. Like, it's clear. And like, even Carson Roberts. Carson Roberts hasn't finished outside the top 5 in any of his past 5 starts, and he has a win. So the only other guys that are kind of like that, Hudson's one of them with 2 top 10s, and Kyle Slattery, who was top 10 at this event 2 weeks ago, has a 9th and 10th in his past 2 starts. So those would be the types of players that I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it just speaks to, if you're a guy like KK or you're a guy like Dylan Wu, having 80% of your best stuff might be good enough for a top 5 here. That's not true on all tours. It's not true on the Korn Ferry or the PGA Tour. So yeah, I agree. I think it's about getting different combinations of a very small group of golfers, but then also like, a Brendan Jelly from last week where he goes out and shoots 65, 64, 64. Like, I'd be sprinkling in a couple of guys that I've never heard of, quite frankly, because we don't know. I mean, some of these guys have zero history that we can find online and might go out and shoot. If you catch them on the round they shoot a 65, like you've turned your 2% guy into big rewards. Because what I've been noticing, Pat, is basically everyone that I or maybe I'm doing it wrong, is like 10 to 20% owned. I think we're all in this very much group think, identifying 12 or 14 guys that we're willing to play. And if you can find one outside, like, and I'll be honest with you, I'm doing like some of my 6 guys are completely random guys I've never heard of, just trying to find a little bit of an edge in some of these larger GPPs.
Yeah, like when we're going about it, like someone like Dan Hudson at this tournament 2 weeks ago shot 76 in the second round, but he was 68 in the first round, which I think you almost have to focus on who can go low in any given day, like you were mentioning earlier, that these guys aren't, listen, they're playing on the Outlaw Tour. They're not the cream of the crop when it comes to consistent golf. But if you can just have the guy who can go exceptionally low, it's a one day, for DraftKings at least, it's a one-day event. So you just need that one day to be the day that you take that person. You can shoot 78 the next day for all you care. So I think that's the way that you should almost approach it. The problem is it's tough to find these people.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, like, and unfortunately, he has a name that people recognize, but it's Sam Triplett, who's Kirk Triplett's son. Didn't play particularly great last week, but his second round was a 63, which if KK didn't break the course record on, I wanted to say Thursday, but these tournaments start on like Mondays and Tuesdays. If he didn't break the record in round 1, Triplett would have tied the course record in round 2. So like, that's the ability to go really, really low that we're looking for. Or even like, I like Riley Wheeldon. Riley Wheeldon's $8,700, and good or bad, this is kind of like being the minor league home run king. He leads the money tour, or he leads the money list on the Outlaw Tour. He won a handful of weeks ago. He's been popping up all over the place. I like Wheeldon as someone who I think we've forgotten about over the last 2 weeks or so, and see if he can bounce back and have a top 5 finish.
Yeah, Wheeldon had the best round of the day in round 2 at this course 2 weeks ago, but he opened with a 72. He ended up finishing T11, which is fine, but it gets masked because he had the one low round and the one shitty round.
Yeah, and like, you don't like, it is weird. Like, I'm trying to train my brain, like, oh, T11, I guess I don't care as much, right? Like I care about that 68 or I care about that 73. But it's weird to kind of train my brain because some of these guys, and I think you mentioned it, even Daniel Hudson last week, like 67, 66, 66 is awesome for him. And I'm probably going to roster a lot of him, but I almost would have preferred it was 63, 69, 64, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just you can really get access to these very low rounds. That's the only thing that really matters for DraftKings. So I think that's the move. You just eat Carson Roberts chalk, maybe pair him with some person you want to stay away from the amateurs, generally speaking. Some of them actually had decent rounds last week in the final round, but like you could also get that guy who shot like 92, 96 for all you know.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh, but you are not exaggerating. That guy shot 96, 98 in those 2 rounds a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, a quick Google search on a lot of these guys reveals at least, hey, they've played on the Korn Ferry in the past year. They've played on the Mackenzie Tour. They've played on the Latin American Tour. Those are the guys I'm looking for. The AMs are usually young guys in the area. They might still be in college. They might just be trying to get, some competitive juices flowing and get access to competitive professional golf. I will not be rostering them.
So for me, I'm going to put in 2 bets this week just because I want to have some action in. So I'm going to bet the 2 guys that I brought up, Dan Hudson and Mitchell Roberts. They're both 60-1 this week, and I'll play them with the top 5 each way. That'll be my investment of $50 this week.
All right. I will probably focus a little bit on the shorter side, but I don't want to go too short. I think Yannick Paul, one of the Paul brothers, I have him at 16-1. He's been playing great. Him and Jeremy are both awesome. But Yannick finished second here 2 weeks ago. So I'm thinking maybe he can keep these good vibes going. He can beat out his brother a little bit. Jeremy's been playing just a little bit better than him over the past couple of weeks. I'm going to go with Yannick at 16. And then I don't know. I'm like kind of a sucker for going back to KK, who it's super short. I would never, ever bet it, but he just kept telling me how good his game was and that his wedges are so good and he's been rolling everything in and the results show it. I'm like, he might just be the best player in this field and he might just win it again, but probably won't get my investment in terms of a bet, but we'll probably have him in a lot of DraftKings lineups. Yeah.
So he would be the expensive guy that you would build around. Like we mentioned with Roberts. So if you put Roberts into your lineup, and that's C Roberts, not O Roberts, by the way. I mean, maybe you just pivot off of Roberts to Roberts. It's easy enough. 173, 17,000. But you get 8,600 per player. So you go with your guy KK, you throw in your dude Yannick Paul, and then you still have 7,700 left over. You can fit in Hudson. You can fit in Hudson. You can fit in was the other guy? Mitchell, and then put in the rando that you think you can kind of go with. Now that we've said that, I don't even know how people are approaching picking the lineups for this. I assume they're all just using Mike Miller sheets and just looking at the board or just looking at last week's leaderboard. That I don't know. You might just want to throw the pebble into the machine and just see what pops out at the bottom end here.
Yeah. And the thing that I've been doing is just leaving money on the table. Be the guy who spends 49,500, get yourself a unique lineup, even if you are building around someone like Carson Roberts or the guys at the top. Spend 49.5, give yourself a chance to win this by yourself. But yeah, it's a lot of educated guess. I've seen a lot of people who are just, I'll just run the same lineup back all 3 days and see what happens there. See if I can catch one day, because if I like these guys, maybe I can get the day right. So a lot of different strategies. This is all very new to us and we're figuring it out as we go along.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I don't know how Tom Lehman's son really is, but I would probably say fade him because he doesn't seem to be any good. And people think it's actually Tom Lehman, who I assume is 65, but he at least has name recognition.
Yeah, that's actually I hate that. I like Sam Triplett, but I hate that his name is Triplett because I know people are just going to click it because they see it. But you're right. And it's not saying that he's who's better, Sam Triplett or Mark Anguiano? Probably Mark Anguiano. I have no idea. I mean, likely him. He's a mini tour player, but people who, if they don't know their names, they're going to go under owned. It's just Ricky Fowler goes classically over owned because people like him. Triplett, Lehman, they're going to go over owned just because they recognize the name.
All right. Do you have anything else on the Outlaw Tour before we get back into other golf?
No. I at least enjoy that they've leaned into this and said, okay, we'll periscope some of this stuff. And no, all the guys seem to really like riding in carts and wearing shorts and using rangefinders. But no, I don't think I have anything else.
Is Burdick in this field?
Oh,
No, he's not.
I don't think so.
See, that's not good. I was looking at, if you go on the Outlaw Tour site, you can go back and look 2 weeks ago for the Legacy Shootout, and they just have, like, it's not like full stats or anything like that, but you can find like K. Gorbon in the second round had 7 birdies in the round. Hey, that's not bad.
That's big time scoring. Also, I found out Samuel Saunders, excuse me, is not Sam Saunders, grandson of Arnold Palmer. It is some guy who played on the Mackenzie Tour like 3 years ago. Not the same guy.
E. Lebo had 5 birdies in the round. That's another guy. I don't know if he's in the field or not.
Who's this? Oh no, Eric Lilibo. How much is he? Because he keeps popping up on these leaderboards.
That's I don't think he's playing is the thing.
Oh, that's the problem.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
that
not.
makes sense. Yeah, he's not in the field.
Well, that was a good try. Okay. Korn Ferry released their schedule.
Yeah. Okay. So did you see what the PGA Tour is going to do with like eligibility moving forward and how it affects these Korn Ferry guys?
I have not. Do you have insight into this? I've been trying to not read like really boring articles and just have someone explain it to me. That would be much easier.
It is pretty boring. There's more to it, but generally speaking, the guys who have PGA Tour membership are not going to lose their tour status this year. So the PGA Tour does right by their PGA Tour players, but it really kind of impacts the Korn Ferry Tour in kind of a crappy way. When I talked to Brent Grant about it, he was actually kind of excited about it. When I talked to Dylan Wu, I think he realized it might kind of hurt some of these Korn Ferry guys, because the way they're doing this is the top 10 on the Korn Ferry Tour are basically going to be allowed to play the alternate events on the PGA Tour, which is the 6 events that run opposite of
WGCs.
the majors and the WGCs, but there's not going to be those 25 graduates this year. So Dylan was saying, if I get that top 10 and can play the alternate events, which he's currently like 4th or 5th on the money list, he's in that area, he might not even want to play those alternate events because you'd have to go out and like win one of those to get your PGA card, when really you'd probably be better off playing 6 events on the Korn Ferry Tour for the full wraparound season and then get like your full tour card as one of the top 25 graduates next year. So it's like basically put a delay on everybody on the Korn Ferry Tour for a year.
Okay, so the events that are coming up on the Korn Ferry Tour, they're going to restart June 8th. So that's just after Colonial is scheduled to go. And that's going to be at Sawgrass.
It's at the Dye Valley course, I believe.
Yes.
So it's not TPC Sawgrass, but it's one of the ones in the complex.
Yeah, so it's not the stadium course, it's the Dye Valley course.
Right.
Still, that's going to be the first event. And then they're going to go to St. Augustine, Florida. These are 2 new events at the King and Bear World Golf Hall of Fame course. So that'll be fun. That's the next week. And then again the next week, the Utah Championship, which I've just found out that Mike Weir is playing in.
Wow, there you go. Mike Weir. Has he played on the Korn Ferry Tour before?
I believe so. Not an amazing amount of results, but I believe he turns 50 like the week after. So I think it's a tune-up for the Champions Tour.
Is he going to be good on the Champions Tour?
I don't think so, but it's really it's always really hard. It's really hard to gauge who's going to be good on the Champions Tour and who's not. Like in my mind, I don't understand how VJ doesn't win every event.
Well, I feel like just being between 50 and 55 on the Champions Tour, it gives you a huge advantage. Like when you are fresh on the tour, there's a guy, I can't remember his name. I don't think it's Scott Harrington, but it's somebody who
Scott McCarron,
where like his first pro events were like the Champions Tour basically. And then he like dominated for like 4 years and won everything because he was like the youngest, most spry of the guys. Like, I don't even know how to handicap that stuff.
No, I guess it's who takes it seriously and who doesn't would be kind of my guess. Like Stricker won out. He had a ton of success. I think VJ won a major, but like VJ is still more concerned about competing at like the Honda Classic and the Masters than he is about the Champions Tour.
Yeah, he might be using Champions Tour to tune up for his few starts on the PGA Tour, like Mike Weir's using the Korn Ferry Tour to get ready for the Champions Tour.
So those are the first 3 events. So you go Florida, Utah. Then you're at TPC Colorado the following week. And then the next 2 weeks, July 6th and July 13th, they're both in San Antonio. And we get the Oaks course, which used to be on the PGA Tour, for back-to-back events. How hot is it going to be in San Antonio on July 6th?
I'm going to assume very hot. And then also what I think they're going to do is not this season, but next season's their wraparound season next year is going to kind of be like the PGA Tour, where there's going to be like 40 something events and it's going to be there's going to be no break. So we're going to see, like, if you're in the top 10 on the end of this short season, you get those alternate field starts, but you'd rather be in the top 25 after the next like 45 events and guarantee yourself a card. It's going to be it's going to be a ton of golf for us to talk about, I assume.
Yeah, there's going to be, I wonder if, I mean, you'd think I would know this, but I don't, that if they're doing Outlaw Tour, but I guess the PGA Tour will be back when Korn Ferry comes. Like, the Korn Ferry should really run like Monday to Thursday or something like that. Just go opposite the PGA Tour. But I guess that would fuck people on like Monday qualifying and stuff.
Well, they did do that, but I think they stopped doing it. Like, there was a time where they tested that, and I agree. I think the Monday qualifying thing screws it up. Maybe you go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know, but they tried that. I don't know what their plan is moving forward, but it's a good idea.
I think they were only doing it for the Central American events. I don't know if it was like the regular stuff, and maybe just that's how you always do it in golf. So if you're taking over a course, those are the days that it goes. But if they can get a partnership with DraftKings, for example, like, think about how much DraftKings has done for the Outlaw Tour already.
Yeah.
Think about what it could do for the Korn Ferry Tour, knowing that stuff that's on TV, for one thing. It would give Golf Channel way more stuff to actually show in terms of live golf, and then people would want to bet it because it's like, no one wants to bet or play DraftKings on the Korn Ferry Tour when it's going head-to-head with the PGA Tour, but put it off on its own isolated island, and it's not to say that you're going to have $25,000 daily contests, but you'd get people playing it. People are playing fucking League of Legends.
This is the perfect example, this hiatus that we're in, of like, if you build it, they will come, right? Like, allocate your resources to the Korn Ferry Tour, get us DraftKings contests for the Korn Ferry Tour. People will watch, people will tune in. Dylan Wu went to Northwestern, very bright guy. He was like all about this. He was like, yeah, like getting people to know the non-top 10 PGA Tour players, getting to know their names, like, that helps everybody out. It's good exposure for those guys. It's good exposure for the tours. Like, this is the time. We're proving it right now with the Outlaw Tour, that if you give us contests for, hell, the LPGA Tour, the Korn Ferry Tour, the Champions Tour, there is a market for this, as long as there's a way we can watch it, follow along with it, and enjoy it.
Yeah, and being in quarantine with no sports going on is one thing. Obviously, people are going to play and bet on, and it's not even like a ton of people are, I mean, they're playing a ton of DraftKings for Outlaw Tour. I don't know what like the betting handle is going to be for it. But once everything is, let's say, back, the Korn Ferry Tour could they could develop a gambling niche, like cut it to three rounds, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Just don't compete with the PGA Tour, and then you'll just get people who like to bet on golf, or degens who just want to play DraftKings all the time. They'll play this for sure. But like I said, if it's going head to head, no one wants to play it.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got to run opposite. You've got to be, the only golf show in town, so to speak, and just make it available. Yeah, I'll show up. I'll come in and put some lineups in. I'll do some previews. It's all good.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure I can talk to Moose. He can get fantasynational.com. I'll load it up with Korn Ferry people. We were thinking about doing it for the Outlaw Tour. We were like, well, we have no stats to put in.
Not only, okay, so a little peek behind the curtain here. And even in the stats that they do have, like, there's duplicates of all of these players. So like, you might see KK Limbasu listed 3 different times in like the scoring average section. I'm like, it ain't pretty, Pat.
No, I'm actually kind of shocked they got up, like, over the past, since they've started doing the Periscope, basically since DraftKings has started running contests for the Outlaw Tour and people like took it seriously, that their tech has really, it's not like PGA Tour type tech, but they've really done enough effort into it that you can find stuff now. It's usable now. Like, it's not just completely in the dark anymore.
And remember when, I mean, you were only getting scoring updates every 9 holes. You were just getting them in batches as these guys finished the front 9 and then as they finished the final round. Now, I'm pretty sure this was the case like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if they're still doing it, but the players are now responsible for putting their scores in after every hole.
Yeah.
So you're getting in theory live-ish updates to the leaderboards, which is huge hit.
One thing that I really wanted was like putts per round. I know it's not like a great metric, but like Spawn, I think shot even par in the final round last week. But I thought he was going to play this week, and I assume he's playing next week. But I would like to know, it's like, oh, did he put it to 10, like not even necessarily 10 feet, but did he hit 18 out of 18 greens in regulation and 2-putted every single one? Like, I'd like to know that kind of thing. Just like, at least I could glean something from that. It's like, oh, he hit 20% of greens in regulation. It's like, oh, I get how that correlates to a 72. But if you hit 16 out of 18, but you didn't make a birdie, it's like, what the hell is going on here? Like, maybe that's the case of chasing a guy who is good talent-wise, but just had a cold putter because he had been off for 2 months.
Yeah, that's another thing. When the PGA Tour does come back, like Rory just picked up his clubs for the first time in 7 weeks, like yesterday, and Shane Lowry was I saw
Lowry
chips. Yeah, these guys are gonna have a lot of rust to shake off, I think.
Yeah, that's why the first tournament bet, you bet Sanjay, you bet Bryson. Those are the 2 guys you want.
Oh yeah, well Bryson's been hitting 1,000 balls a day in his driveway, and then just pumping iron in between. The guy's an absolute machine.
And you know Sungjae, I mean, I see Instagram videos of Sungjae every single day on the course.
Yeah, he's still playing. Fun story. So KK wins last week. And when we were waiting for our interview, he was out on the course playing. I'm like, dude, you don't like even take a day off after winning what is a major on the Golden State Tour? And he was like, I'll take off Saturday. Like, that's my one day to take off. I have nothing else to do. I'm going to keep playing golf.
Let's talk PGA schedule then. This is what the people are here for. Again, if you just put in your email at fantasynational.com, free access to the site until the PGA actually returns. And that is at least tentatively scheduled for June 11th. Charles Schwab Challenge, Colonial CC, a tournament that's been very good to me over the years. Hopefully I am back from paternity leave before that is, and I may even have to talk to my wife and say, look, we need someone to come over to watch child number 1 while I go film betting and DraftKings shows for the Charles Schwab Challenge. Then I can just be off the rest of the week, and I can come back and be full-time dad again here to our oldest. Who, Rick, I'm not going to lie to you, having a kid that's 16 months old along with a newborn is not going to be pretty, especially like in quarantine where our family can't come up to help. So it's just the 2 of us in a really small condo. I think we're going to kill each other.
Yeah, I'm rooting for you guys. I'm hoping you survive it. That does not sound too pleasant. And yeah, man, I'm rooting for you.
So here's what we got. I'm shocked that they didn't, and I mean, I know that the sponsors came in and said, oh, we want this date, we want this date, we don't want our tournament to be canceled. But I thought they would have clustered the travel together a little bit better than they did. So we go Colonial June 11th. The following week is now Heritage. So that is in South Carolina. And then the Travelers remains unchanged. That's in Connecticut. And then we're going to Detroit. Like, that's just a lot of travel all around. Like, you think you would have been, oh, well, we'll add a South Carolina course. Sorry, Rocket Mortgage. Like, this year you're in, I don't know, Charleston or something.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought they would have created basically like the Florida swing or the Southeast swing, and then the Northwest swing. Doesn't appear like that's the case. PGA Tour, I obviously didn't think that was a major priority, but I too was surprised to see that outside of changing dates and canceling and postponing or whatever, like, yeah, courses didn't change, or hey, we'll get you next year. Rocket Mortgage in Detroit. We're going somewhere else. I agree. This was probably the most surprising part of this schedule.
So at least it opens up a little bit, because then it goes to Detroit, which I guess makes sense because you have the Rocket Mortgage. Then the next week you have TPC Deer Run for the John Deere Classic. That's in Illinois, so it's not too far away. And then you go to Ohio for the Memorial. Like, those 3 are at least clustered. Then you're back to Minnesota for the 3M. So at least that month, I'm just curious how a lot of guys are going to plan this out in terms of scheduling. I would guess that guys play all 4 of those weeks or 3 of those 4 weeks, because there's not a whole lot of travel involved. The logistics are pretty easy. You can drive to each of those events. You don't need to fly like that. There's certain stuff like that we're going to have to factor in, not necessarily us in prognosticating, but just to see who's going to play these events. And if I'm one of these events, I'm like, hey, Tiger Woods, here's $10 million. Please come play our event.
Yeah, well, maybe, but if they're not letting fans in, the gate might not matter if Tiger's there or not. But you're right. So, and then especially that stretch of golf that you just described, it does not end with the Open Championship like it normally would. So guys that would normally not want to play 3 out of 4 weeks or 4 out of 4 weeks leading up to a major don't necessarily have that concern anymore. So I do think you'll get, in a world where these guys are all trying to peak 4 times a year, there's 1 major this season and 6 next season. So the schedules are going to be weird. You will see guys play 4, maybe 5 weeks in a row if it makes sense when they normally wouldn't have.
Wait, there's 6 majors next year?
So next season, I guess.
I guess, yeah, if you include the Masters, yeah.
U.S. Open, Masters, and then the normal 4, right?
Yeah, they're not playing like 2 British Opens to make up for the canceled one.
No.
Yeah, so
that would be cool. But I mean, there's an argument to be made that like if we get a guy who goes on a stretch of golf like we saw Jordan Spieth get on, or Jason Day who won like 9 times in 17 months or whatever, like if someone gets on one of those stretches in the next 17 months or whatever, they're going to win like 3 majors back to, like, it's just going to be insane. If you can catch fire, you can rattle off a ton of huge wins right in a row.
They could. Like, I think it would be such a huge advantage for one of the world's top 10s just to say, fuck it, I'm playing every week. Like, I heard Jason Day wants to do that I don't think many of them are going to do that. So if you could catch fire, you could reel off a lot of these in a short stretch, like almost like Brendan Todd did in a weird way. And like, I don't think these fields are going to be exceptionally strong until we get later on down the line. Like the Colonial might be pretty strong. It's in Texas. There's a lot of guys in Texas. People will make their way there. But I think as we get to, like, I don't think that the field at TPC Deer Run for the John Deere Classic is necessarily going to be more powerful than it's been in any other year. Do you?
No, I also think there's going to be a really interesting conversation that these guys are going to have about, hey, do I punt the FedEx Cup playoffs this year?
Yes.
Which I think is going to be the answer for a lot of them, to be ready for next year, right? Because I think I don't have it in front of me, but Brooks Koepka's like outside the 200 in the FedEx Cup standings or something like that. If he has any chance of making the Tour Championship, he's going to have to play a ton. I don't think he's going to do it. So I think this year,
I think that really depends though, because you go, let's see here. You have July 30th, WGC FedEx in Memphis, which Brooks won last year. And then what is it? The next week you have the PGA Championship. So you just have one decent showing in one of those 2 events, and all of a sudden you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's probably true. I just think that there's going to be some percentage of these top guys who don't make this year's FedEx Cup a priority, especially because 2 weeks after the Tour Championship is the US Open or something crazy like that. So we'll see. But we might have a Tour Championship, and the 30 guys are Sebastian Munoz, Cam Champ, Brendan Todd, guys that got off to a good start at the beginning of the year.
Well, I actually I found a bad line on Sebastian Munoz and bet him at 2,500 to 1 to win the Masters.
What was it supposed to be? 250 to 1?
Yeah, I guess so. Like they dropped, I think they dropped it to 600 to 1 now.
That's like past champions range. That's like, Sandy Lyle range or Larry Mize range. Yeah, that's a bad number.
He was the same as Mike Weir and Larry Mize at 2,500 to 1. He's now 600 to 1. And they haven't canceled the bet, so I guess they're letting it ride. I played the each way on that. I mean, it was mainly to play the each way. I don't think that Munoz is going to win the Masters, but I believe it's 625 to 1 to finish inside the top 5. Like, I think he has a better than 1 in 625 to 1 chance of finishing top 5 at the Masters. Like, the guy is one of the best putters on earth. I know he's never played there before, but like, have 2 rounds where you make everything and like you come fourth.
Yeah, backdoor your way into a T5. You're all good. Yeah, I love it. Honestly.
Yeah, it would pay for 2 years worth of golf bets. It'd be fantastic.
That's awesome.
But it's hard to do anything like. if I was going to make any future wagers right now, whether it be for the Masters, the PGA Championship, or the US Open, I would basically only bet American players or players that I knew were currently in America. Because what the fuck happens to all the European players if they're overseas? Can they even get into the country?
Yeah, it's weird. There's been a kind of a lot of stories coming out about these guys not sure what they're going to do, and the European Tour has come out and been like, hey, the European Tour might not look like what it normally looks like. We might play 2 events back to back at the same course because we're worried about travel concerns here in Europe, let alone getting these guys back and forth to the States or not. So I agree with you. And as more information comes out with travel restrictions or everything like that, we'll know more. But yeah, if you were betting right now, it wouldn't be Eric Van Rooyen. It wouldn't be some of those guys that are stationed overseas. It would be guys that are here and playing locally.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think about that. Like because I don't think that Rory's going to play.
Play what?
At all.
Oh, okay.
I
thought you meant play the Masters.
No, he might end up playing the Masters, but I don't think he's going to play in the PGA Championship. At least based on the comments that he's made so far about like safety concerns. And he's like, fuck it, I'm rich. What do I care?
He's been the trailblazer, like the most woke one, or at least the most outspoken one. And I still contend he was the one that shut this whole thing down. When we were like after round 1 of the players, and he was like, if any player or any single caddy gets this, we're done. And then Monahan's hand was kind of forced in that situation. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if he's just gearing up for what? Ryder Cup, if it happens with or without fans, and then Augusta in November, it wouldn't surprise me to see him skip out on anything.
Yeah, it's just where that one's the first one back. Like, do we know where Rahm is right now?
I don't know where Rahm is right now.
Let's see. I'm going to check out this Instagram video. When's this from? April 19th. It looks like he is in Arizona, so he's probably good. But like, if these guys, I think it would be worth looking into where some of these top players are. Like, if Rory, is Rory still stateside? Because I think he's back overseas.
I thought he was working out in Jupiter the other day.
Okay, if that's the case, then probably all bets are off on this. But if guys like, I think Fleetwood is back overseas. I don't know where Hideki's at right now. He's probably still in the States. It's unfortunate that all the Euros are way down the list, but like Rose and those type of guys. I was just looking at Rose. Rose is 50-1 to win the PGA Championship.
Okay. I don't have a bet on it, but I am a big Justin Rose rest of the year guy. Because this hiatus allows him to get right with those tailor-made clubs that he dropped. Like, he dropped Hanma just a couple weeks before maybe the week before the players, and now he can get right. I like him at Augusta, a place where he's had success. He lost in a playoff to Sergio. Like, I'm a buy low on Justin Rose right now kind of guy.
Yeah, I think last time you were on the show, we made a Justin Rose Masters future wager. I had him at 45-1. I was like, let's go.
Yeah, I think I picked him up too. Because for the most part, the only bets I had for futures were ones that didn't get canceled. So I think I have a JT one out there, but I'm sure I added Rose at some point because I was like, oh my God, he's gonna get all dialed in with his old TaylorMades and be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, my Masters card as it stands right now, I have Justin Thomas at 20-1, Bryson at 50-1, Rose at 45, and Munoz at 2,500-1.
Bryson, by the time we get to Augusta, Bryson's going to be hitting 6-iron off every tee because he's going to be nuking it 300 yards. The guy's going to weigh 450.
Yeah, like, I don't know where, like, again, if people can actually go out and do the research on this, like if Adam Scott is currently in Australia and Fleetwood is in England, that if there are travel restrictions, and let's say Rory's not in Jupiter. Let's say somehow you figure out that he's probably not going to play or anything like that. Like, those are 3 guys inside the top 10 in terms of the overall betting board, that it makes the top of the board a bit more intriguing just because you can kind of cancel some people out if they can't actually play.
Yeah. Those 3 guys are like 15% of the win equity combined.
Yeah. So guys like Dustin and Brooks are both 14-1 right now to win the PGA Championship.
Those are probably also 2 good just in general. Like if you were buying stock, buying Brooks and DJ, guys that are coming off injuries, not necessarily playing all that great, just getting time feels good to them.
All right. I think that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. PGA Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, Outlaw Tour. Rick Gehman, you got anything else?
No. That is all.
That's it. How's the simulation tournaments going?
They're going good. Yeah, I was, very surprised that people, I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been. We kind of talked about just something to follow along with, something to enjoy. So yeah, I've been, spreadsheetgolf.com is a little project me and my buddy whipped up and just, runs Thursday to Sunday, lets you follow along with what's going on. You can put some teams in. It's just been a fun way to pass the time until hopefully, fingers crossed, Pat, June 11th, we're back at this.
Yes, let's hope that all comes back. Run a Millionaire Maker for Colonial. I guess it would
You'll fill it instantly.
Yeah. If not, I'll run a Pat Mayo Experience Open, have with like 10,000 seats or something like that. And it'll probably fill pretty quickly. Anyway, Rick, where can people download the podcast, watch the videos, and follow you on Twitter and go to your website?
Yeah, Twitter at Rick Run Good. It's dfsondemand.com, YouTube, and the podcast. If you search, Rick Run Good, you'll find me. Everything's out there.
All right. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Remember to smash the like button on your way out, leave a review for the audio podcast, and share this on social media. This show in particular, if you want to get into a draw for an Outlaw Tour hoodie, you can do that at the PME on all social media platforms. Thank you all for watching. Rest of the week, we got football ×2. We got some MMA. We got some challenge recaps. More Pat Mayo experiences coming at you every single day. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!